I'm Jason Reed of Inner Edge Music, and I'm very excited to be here with the members of Poptone. Yes, indeed. And Daniel, very loyal supporter of us. And
14 years now.
yes, yes. We go back, way, way back. Poptone, this is such an exciting time, and I heard you guys during soundcheck. It sounded so amazing. And I want to ask each member of the band how things have been going so far on the tour. You've had a really good reception from the music press and the fans, and a lot of shows have been sold out. So Daniel, tell us a little bit about all that.
Okay, yes. Hello, everybody. The difference between how we used to do, where you go on the road for 2 or 3 months at a time, which was a nightmare because we'd get into trouble, staying up too late, way past our bedtime, and I'd often miss my cup of cocoa at 9:45 at night. And things like that, So this time round, it's we're doing no more than 2 weeks on the road, and then we have like a week or 10 days off, and then another 2 weeks. So no more than sort of 7 gigs at a time. And so it's taken longer to cover the country, if you like, but that's not really. It doesn't matter, We're going to be doing this until November. But as I said, it's a new sort of way of doing it completely, where you don't go on the road for 3 months, you go on the road for 2 weeks, and then you have a week off or so. Yeah. So it's completely civilized.
Do you find that being able to kind of intensely play some shows and then go back and recoup translates to a more intense stage presence or more energy?
Absolutely, yeah, because it's sort of relatively fresh again. Yeah, very, very much so, because you'll get jaded if you're doing like 2 or 3 months. Yeah. We had this break after doing 7 gigs, and it feels like we've just started again. So I really think that's going to be the case to the end of the year.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Well, Kevin, how about for you? The real focused intensity of touring, has that translated to a more enjoyable experience for you on the road?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, just exactly what Daniel said. It's, we've never toured like this before, so it's a new thing. I think, by now, had we not had a break, we'd be like 2 weeks into it and probably kind of thinking, I'd like to go home,
Yeah.
But been home for like 10 days, so now you're refreshed and like excited to play again.
Yeah,
so it's great.
Well, Diva, as the third member of this group and as Kevin's daughter, how has it been for you with touring?
Yeah, it's been really great. The crowd response so far has been really enthusiastic, and even for me as like a newcomer into the band, to these bands that people hold so dear to their hearts, it's like, who knows how they're gonna receive me as like this new kind of member or something. And they've from my experience been really supportive of my role in the band and stuff, so I really appreciate that.
Well, Daniel, I know in another interview, I know we're gonna put you back on the spot, man. Don't want to retread too much treaded water, but in another interview you had spoken about sort of the impetus for the formation of Poptone, and there was an interesting story about allegedly falling asleep listening to YouTube and hearing Motorhead, I believe it was, and kind of having a vision for coming back on the road after many years of not performing live.
Yeah, it's been about 8 years or something. It was when I think about it, it really was a strange thing. I was had the headphones on, looking at YouTube stuff, and I think I fell asleep to probably Before and After Science or something, Brian Eno, something like that. Anyway, I dozed off, and then 4 o'clock in the morning, I was awoken with the Ace of Spades by Motorhead.
Okay.
And
was that after Lemmy had passed away?
Yeah, it was like 9 weeks ago, just before all this started.
So perhaps a message from beyond the grave.
Well, that's what Kevin reckons. He thinks that Lemmy was trying to, tell me something. It was the weirdest thing, because I woke up, the noise of Ace of Spades woke me up, and I do love that track just because of its balls out quality. It's just a great rock and roll song. And as soon as I woke up and I heard that, it instantly put me in a really good mood. I remember I used to listen to the Sex Pistols if I had a hangover or a headache. The Sex Pistols at full volume would sort my headache out, which is very peculiar. I know that's strange, but
very
it really
therapeutic. And forget the.
It's strange, because most people you would think it would give them a real throbbing headache, but it would actually cure my headaches. Extremely loud music, and everything just switched that morning. I was like, what's this that I'm feeling? I want to do this. Oh my God, it's so obvious. I should go play live again. I can do this, because my confidence was in the gutter. I didn't want to do it anymore. This was like 8 years ago. And then boom, just this thing that happened. It was the switch just went flick like that, from one extreme to the other. So here we are, but odd.
It's a beautiful thing, and thanks to Lemmy, I think your theory, Kevin, might have some credence that beyond the grave, Lemmy was urging you guys.
I think he was. Yeah.
Well, more specifically, Daniel, this with Poptone, obviously the reference to Tones on Tail and a lot of Tones on Tail material. You guys hadn't really performed a lot of those songs for a long, long time, since sort of the mid '80s, right?
Yeah, it was '83. I think that we went on the road. We did like 12 or 13 gigs in the UK, another 12 or 13 gigs in the States, and that was it. The band dissipated at that time, and then Love and Rockets started. So over those years, because of that album Pop, and then we had, that was the official album, and then we had another one called Night Music, which was a compilation of everything. So over the years, they've sort of built themselves up to have a great reputation as being, really good music. Yeah. So now this is the first time that the demand was there for people to actually hear that band, because we've done many reunions or many gigs with Love and Rockets and Bauhaus, and this was the one band that we haven't. So, because of that, 70% of the set is Tones, and we're loving it.
The fans are loving it. I just have heard the response of folks that have heard some of these songs that they never thought, myself included tonight, very much looking forward to it, songs that I never thought I'd ever hear performed live. So it's a special thing.
Well, I never thought we'd hear them live again, for sure, absolutely, until this thing happened 9 weeks ago, And then first thing I did was call Kevin and say, well, we're going to do this, who's going to play bass? And then obviously the Diva thing came up. Yeah. And I immediately, when he said Diva's name, I thought, well, in my head, I thought, well, if that works out, it doesn't get better than that. Yeah. And it worked out perfectly so far. Touch wood.
Yeah, let's knock on this wood. Extremely impressive in such a short period of time to be able to sort of get together, bring Diva on board, and play some of these songs that it sounds like hadn't been played for 30 years. For you, Kevin, what was it like? I mean, did it come naturally when Daniel said, hey, let's play this Tones on Tail track? Was there just sort of muscle memory associated with it, or did you really have to kind of sit down and practice and have that stuff come back to you?
Well, whenever we've reformed the band or before we go into it, it takes me like 3 weeks to literally get up to speed, so I practice at home on my own. But, in doing that, everything came back pretty quick. Yeah, it's all in there,
It was 8 weeks solid rehearsal, though. Okay. Once we got the three of us together, it was like in there for 3-4 days a week for 8 weeks.
Yeah, it was pretty loose to begin with. Yeah. Bit rusty, but we oiled the machinery.
Pretty amazing. And Daniel, in terms of looking back at the Tones on Tail songs, are there some that you've been playing on this tour that you actually never played back in the day, that you sort of brought back from the studio albums and have performed?
No,
or not really?
No, I think it's not really, from my memory of the stuff in the past. If anything, there's been a couple subtracted, because I'm personally not in the mood for doing them, but I mean, there's... I think it's essentially... No, that's true, yeah, we didn't do Twist before. That was... and then we're not doing Burning Skies at the moment, because a lot of people are asking for that. But to be honest, I'm just not feeling it.
And for you, Kevin, not feeling it?
No, I really want to... Burning Skies is one of my favourite songs, even just period,
and I
outside
see,
of the band.
Diva, why are you giggling over there? Is this a bone of contention in the band? Is that why you're...
I don't know. It's just funny to see them contradicting each other in an interview. But
well, that's the yin and yang. That's the beauty of great bands, the balance and the different visions. And when it comes together,
I just want to do the fast tracks at the moment. I got all this energy that's come back to me, so I don't know where that's coming from, but I really want to do the faster tracks. And I remember Burning Skies. I loved it when we recorded it. I remember coming out of the studio and being really happy with it. It was so what I wanted to do on that day, and we captured it in the studio. But I don't want to do that long, slow song at the moment. There's a couple of slow ones. I'm really in the mood for playing faster stuff. So that's it. So probably when we're knackered halfway through the year, we'll say, "Oh, can we do that slow one now?" Maybe that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, it's good throwing you in the deep end of the pool, Diva, in terms of just being able to learn the intense, those energy-driven, intense songs that Daniel's talking about. You and your father have performed in the past together in different capacities, correct?
Not really. There was one time in one of my old bands, our drummer was sick, and he filled in but he was like in disguise.
He didn't want his name to sort of trump what you were. He's a humble guy, so he didn't want to overshadow his daughter, right?
We would kind of play. We would do that anyways, so it was just kind of part of it. But yeah, and then he helped me produce a record of one of my solo records that I did a while ago. So we've like collaborated a little bit over the years, but not as much as we are, as this kind of.
So what
This
was
project.
the disguise?
Yeah. What was the disguise?
When he played for you when the drummer was sick. What was the disguise? Did he have like a
Paper bag?
moustache or
Was
something?
it the big like antelope skeleton?
Yeah.
mask?
It was something big, like
With horns.
with horns.
Yeah,
Not real horns,
This
but they-
plastic like antelope skeleton that you normally, it's like from a party store or
Okay,
something,
okay.
and then we made it turn it into a mask.
That sounds kind of hardcore, Kevin. You were channeling something very deep. It sounds like on that.
Not really.
Not really. Okay.
Baphomet.
Well, you brought up a good point, Diva, a good word, which is collaboration. And when I think back about the wonderful career that these two gentlemen have had, through the years, there's been so many collaborations of performing alongside other bands, taking the stage with other folks. And as you look back, Daniel, what are some collaborations that stand out for you through the years of your?
Collaborations outside of this setup. No, there's Love and Rockets and Bauhaus.
Yeah.
I don't. I'll be honest.
Tours
with
that you remember, tours with other bands that no. Okay.
No, I'm not. I don't really know many musicians. I'm not. To be quite honest with you, I'm more interested in like motorcycle mechanics because I've got an obsession with bikes. So the whole. I notice with a lot of musicians, they all sort of know each other, but I keep myself to myself. It's strange.
Remember when our wonderful agent Mark Geiger, who's still our wonderful agent, he would suggest support bands, and he sent us a tape, and it was so we put it on the car. We're going out to London, and it was Jane's Addiction, and we're like, wow, this is really good. Another one was the Pixies, and it was great. Like
Good bands to choose from.
I know. So the first night you'd be in the wings watching these bands, like those two in particular, and go, oh my God, we've got to follow these guys.
Yeah.
But it was so great because it kind of raised your game and also kind of made the whole evening complete and great for the fans.
Yeah.
I would actually probably more so than anyone go out my way to befriend support bands because we would do long tours, and I thought, well, it's going to make it more enjoyable to kind of get to know them. And so I'm still friends with Eric Avery and Steve Perkins and Charles and Joey.
Our support band tonight is POW. They're really good. This is our first night with them, so we're excited about that. They're gonna go up the West Coast with us. So, yeah.
Very cool, very cool. And one other question for you guys. Daniel, a question I like to ask when I interview folks is early influences, more specifically the very first record that you remember purchasing, presumably when you're a kid. Do you remember which one that was?
Very first record I purchased was a thing called, it was by Dave and Ansel Collins, and it was called Double Barrel. It's a reggae thing.
Okay.
And then they had a follow-up called Monkey Spanner, and that was brilliant as well. Yeah, 7-inch singles way back.
Trojan Records, or
Yes, that's right. I think it was, not 100% on that, but it was definitely Double Barrel by Dave and Ansel Collins. Magical 7-inch reggae single.
Wow, that's so cool. And that was back in the UK, the kind of that Jamaican influence, things going on over
I
there.
don't know about, I mean, this is way before I knew about all this, because I would have been like, I wasn't familiar with dub reggae at that point, because I remember actually Kevin playing me dub reggae for the first time, because we'd have it on the very first Bauhaus tours, and it's just this weird thing with that, because it sounded so good to me, dub reggae, that 70s dub, that I thought it must be evil because it sounds so brilliant. I thought you're not supposed to hear that, because this goes back to my Catholic nonsense, the Catholic upbringing, not at home but at school. And something that sounded that good, I thought, well, it must be like naughty. It's like something naughty, but because it sounded, when I first heard 70s dub, I was like, this is incredible. I've got this one album still, I'll always own it. African Anthem, it's called, and it's been sampled so much. And to me, if you want to introduce anybody to dub reggae, that's the one, African Anthem. This Dave and Ansel Collins thing, this was, I just loved it. It was just something that I can't remember how I got a hold of it, but I remember that was the first record I have no idea how I got to know about it, but I remember that was the first thing first 7-inch record, and I think the second one was definitely Starman, Bowie. Apart from all that stuff in the past that my older brother would have, I would have a strict diet of like the Kinks, the Who, the Rolling Stones, and the Beatles, and the Small Faces. Okay. That was what my older brother, who was a full-on mod, that's what I'd hear nothing else but that from like 10 to 15 years old. Well, not, yeah, around 10 to 15. And then the whole glam thing with Bowie came in, and T-Rex and all that, which changed everything again.
Definitely. I love asking this question because I could see just the animation. It's such a visceral, most musicians just
first hits you when you're, when you're between sort of about 13 years old and 15. The stuff that you listen to then stays with you forever. So I remember Lemmy saying that about with the Beatles. That was the thing for him. That was inspiring for him to do which is funny in a way because his stuff couldn't be further from the Beatles. But, he loves the Beatles. And with me, it was the glam rock thing, which completely changed everything.
The course of music history, definitely. Kevin, I'm going to ask you the same question, man, in terms of the very first album that you can remember purchasing and whether you have a similar romanticism associated with it.
Well,
Sometimes it's embarrassing, too.
Well, my first single was embarrassing.
Okay. What was it?
It was Two Little Boys by Rolf Harris.
How old were you?
Boys with two little toys. Oh my God!
In your defense, though, you were a young lad back then.
I mean, the bag.
That's an exclusive here at Inner Edge Music.
I think I was only 7.
That's such a zippy the pin thing to say.
I know.
That's so funny.
7 years old or 8 years old, I think.
That's very young.
Now we're going to find out that it came out in 75 and I was 15.
Yeah, we're gonna do the math and Kevin, shocking development. Well, how about your second release? Maybe there's a redemption.
I'm going to T-Rex. What was the album before Electric Warrior? It was
Before Electric Warrior,
yeah.
the hippie one, you mean?
No.
A Tyrannosaurus Rex.
No, I like that. There's a great album called Unicorn.
Yeah,
that's really
that was
great.
It. That was it.
There
There was Slider, but that actually came after Electric Warrior.
Was it Bowling Boogie or something?
Boogie. He'd gone electric by that stage. Yeah.
Okay.
And I played that on repeat.
Very cool, very cool. Did you listen to John Peel? I mean, was that an influence? A little bit?
Oh, big time. Yeah, I mean, he was actually. You've just reminded me that I wrote a piece about him in my upcoming book, coffee table book called Bauhaus Undead, that's going to be out in October. I wrote about 30 stories, but I thought I'm going to dedicate one to him because he was so important and influential, and he helped break so many bands, because he was, I think I termed it as this shining beacon in an ocean of mediocrity, He, his show came on at 10 o'clock at night, and you'd have your transistor radio, and I remember hearing, I was a big Clash fan, and I remember being outside when they released Complete Control. But before that, he did this whole 2 hours devoted to punk rock and where it came from. And I had it on cassette for years, but I lost it. But he just traced the lineage and with MC5 and New York Dolls and Stooges, and then it kind of went through pub rock a little bit with Dr. Feelgood, and there weren't, when he was doing it, it was really new, so there weren't, I think New Rose had just come out, so he played that. Yeah, it was a great it's like I'll tell you this, what's so special about him. I moved to America, and I kind of stopped listening, and one day I thought, I'll check in, I can listen to him on the internet. So I got on the internet, and he was playing this speed metal song, and, not completely my cup of tea. But the thing with him was, it was really good. It was just like everything that he would play, whatever genre it would be, even if it was a genre that you didn't really care for, you would really like it because he sought out music that was just really good.
Yeah, he was the ultimate curator, and a lot of current DJs, KCRW, a lot of people, seek to sort of emulate that style. And so many bands, British bands that we talk about how influential it was. Same thing, stories of recording, having a tape recorder held up to a speaker, old school, recording the show, and listening to it in the days that followed.
We actually went on a pilgrimage and visited the BBC studios, and we were kind of naive, thinking we wanted to meet him. And they sent word to him.
And this was back in the Bauhaus days? You
Yeah.
were going to do some Peel sessions
And
or
he
something?
invited us up and had this bottle of red wine and shared this red wine. And so we sat in on one of his shows.
Had you not met him like when you did the Peel sessions though?
No, you don't meet him. You just go to a...
There's a studio engineer that is actually doing a lot of the work.
He would DJ live, and I think he had DJ'd one of our early gigs in Northampton, and I think maybe we briefly met him. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for sharing that, and we look forward to checking out your book and maybe doing a review for it when it comes out. So definitely look forward. And not to let you off the spot, Diva, because I got to ask you that question too. As the third member of Poptone, it may be a different era, presumably, or definitely it will be, I would think. But your very first album, it probably was a CD, I would reckon. But do you remember what that very first one was? Not necessarily that you were given by your dad or family, but that you actually purchased in a meaningful way.
Yeah, well, I can't really remember like the first record I bought on my own, but I remember the first. I mean, I grew up with their music a lot. Like, I went, that was probably my first show. Like, when I was a baby, my mom would take me to their shows and stuff. But I think I remember the first, artist I was really into. I just kind of remember being like, oh, I love this, and I want to hear this song over and over again, and, I want to go see them play and stuff was Beck.
Okay, yeah.
And it would have been probably...
Which album? Like Odelay era? Like mid-96, 95-ish?
Probably, yeah,
The
pretty
first
early,
one,
like
right?
94 maybe. Because I was like really young. So I didn't like have my own money to buy the record, but maybe I was like, can you guys get me there? I want to hear this or something. But that was like, I remember being, just independently really kind of into it. And they took me to see him play an in-store at Aaron's Records. I actually had worked there in high school later on, but yeah, I really that's really imprinted,
Yeah.
And then later on, when I was like 12, got really, really into just early punk, Sex Pistols, Buzzcocks, The Damned and stuff, and then, started playing in punk bands with my friends and stuff. So that was kind of my music buying, era, but still pretty influenced by you because you took me to that Sex Pistols movie. That came out around that time. How many times did I listen to that Sex Pistols?
Well,
movie? Just,
we
over
went
and over
immediately
and over.
to Virgin Records, and she said, "Daddy, can I get their record?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course, yeah."
And it
Wasn't-
was Never
Never
Mind the
Mind.
Bollocks?
Yeah.
Yeah, the ultimate.
And then it was just it was just non-stop
Yeah.
on repeat. And I took great delight one day. I went down and I knocked on the door and it was blasting. I'm like, "Diva," and she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Can you turn it up?" "Daddy, you're supposed to tell me to turn it down."
Yeah,
and I said, "Yeah, I know." And close it.
You didn't want to be that curmudgeon-y guy. Yeah.
I was just having a bit of fun.
That's beautiful, beautiful stuff. Thank you so much for your time. It's been really a wonderful experience to talk to all three of you.